Hi, I'm Themis Claritas, and welcome to Thursdays with Themis on Friday again this week. I know last week I let you all know that we wouldn't have an official video because we were in session last Thursday morning from 11 a.m. until 10 a.m. Friday morning, so we were there overnight. And during that time, we debated many important bills. You've heard a lot about the police accountability bill, so we won't focus on that right now. I wanted to give a little bit of attention to some of the other bills we did that were important that day. One of them was a telehealth bill. You know, under the governor's executive orders, one of the things he allowed people to do was have medical visits on the phone, via video, etc., because we wanted people to stay in place as much as possible and not interact, particularly our older population. So what this did was extend the governor's executive order until March 15th, 2021. So it gives time for the next legislature to get into session. And if we, God forbid, are in that position again where we need to continue the telehealth bill, then we will be able to have people in the legislature do that. But what it did was it expanded the amount of medical providers that were able to provide telehealth, and it expanded it also to audio. Up until now it was video. We know a lot of our elderly don't have the capabilities or understanding to do video, so it expanded that to allow people to get their medical needs met in a safe way without having to go do that in person. The other bill we did was an insulin bill, which was a bill that was very important during regular session before we had to cut it short because of COVID. We had been told many times that people that need insulin were not able to get it because they didn't have the proper health coverage or they weren't able to get enough. So they were rationing their insulin, which any of you who are diabetic know. Insulin is not something that you can kind of take a little bit of or take part of. You have to have the proper amount at all times, and it is a life or death situation. So what we did was we allowed pharmacists to be able to provide a 30-day supply in an emergency situation. If somebody shows up and says, I'm out of insulin and I don't know what to do, I can't get to a doctor, I don't have a doctor, etc. And then we capped, under normal circumstances, the amount of insulin to $25 of your out-of-pocket costs. So your co-pays, your deductibles, etc. For insulin, $25, and for the equipment that is needed, syringes, etc., to $100. So I think those are very good and positive public policy and public health needs that we pushed forward in that special session. The last bill we did was the absentee ballot bill. Now I know there was a lot of controversy over that. We had negotiated that for over a month, and the bill that finally passed was a bill that allowed COVID to be an excuse to get an absentee ballot. Now, I certainly would never want anybody to choose between their right to vote and their fear of going out of their home, going to a polling place, and I certainly have concerns about people working at polling places. So we allowed that as an excusable reason to get an absentee ballot, but we narrowed it down to only the November 3rd, 2020 election. And if next session the legislature decides they would like to change that in the Constitution, they can move forward for no excuse absentee ballots. Or if we are in a COVID situation still, the legislature will be able to change that going forward. Remember, you are mailed absentee ballots. There are drop boxes outside of your town halls. We had some concerns with those because we just want to make sure, as important as your right to vote is, it is just as important that that right and that vote is safe and gets to the proper person and gets to the proper people to be counted, and making sure that we are doing this in a safe and effective way. So thank you all for joining me on this Thursdays with Themis on Friday. We'll see you next week.